Hi everyone, good evening. So before we start, can someone notify me in the comment section if I'm audible? All right. All right, so I'll start by introducing myself. I am Tvesa Bhutani, a counselor, an educator, and a trainer. I've been studying and applying psychology for more than 7 years now, and I'm a rational emotive behavioral practitioner. So, being an REBT counselor enables me to focus on my clients' emotions, thoughts, and feelings at the same time. So far, I've conducted about 100 sessions. I'm a counselor with Fitzoh, which is an online health and wellness transformation startup. We focus on the holistic growth of our clients. Right. So today we'll be discussing how to stay focused. We'll start by discussing how we tend to lose focus, and then gradually we'll talk a little about few of the techniques that you all can use to stay focused. Right. During this session, if anyone feels they have any doubts, you can put your questions up in the comments. We'll keep some time towards the end and I'll try to answer all your questions. All right, so welcome everyone. Let's begin. Now, what is focus? So, focus is staying with one thing, basically bringing your attention to one thing and being with that task completely. If you think that you zone out easily, you're distracted most of the times, and you're unable to be productive because of zoning out and getting distracted, then this session is for you. Now, why is it important to stay focused? When we don't take care of our body, it gets out of shape and that causes physical problems. Similarly, if we don't take care of our mind and our brain cells, they lose focus and we become unproductive. So that's why important. That is why it is important that we stay focused, and staying focused will help us in achieving our goals. Now let's try and discuss something that could be a possible reason for us to lose focus. In today's technological world, everything is so fast running that our brain is used to the fast pace, and it finds it difficult when we have to focus on one particular thing. Our brain wants more and more stimulation. Now, what is stimulation? It can be understood as excitement, basically, the raising levels of activity in our brain and body. So, our brain wants more and more excitement, more and more stimulation. Our brain wants novelty, because of which it craves distractions. When we sit to work on our laptops, we get bored after a few minutes and we start checking our phone, we'll scroll through Instagram, reply to WhatsApp texts. Our brain is commanding us to do something new. And that's because we have trained our brain like that in the past few years. Now, if we can train our brain to crave for stimulation, we can also train it to settle for a moment and stay focused on a task. If you're already bored of this live session and you feel like switching it off, then you definitely need to watch the whole thing to learn how to stay focused. Right, moving on to a few of techniques. So, we make a fitness routine to bring our bodies back to shape when we feel we don't have a lot of stamina, we're not feeling fit, maybe we've gained few weight or gained few kilos or we've lost few kilos. Similarly, we need to work with our brain to stay focused. So, I'll now talk about a few tips which can help you in training your brain and stay focused. So, motto of all these techniques basically is to increase the attention span. When we're able to attend to a particular thing for a longer time, that's when we're focused on that thing. Right. So, the first tip or the first technique is called the Pomodoro Technique. So this technique was discovered in the 1990s, and it basically means to break a task and to do it in intervals. Now, for instance, if you want to study or you're working on a project which will take, let's say, about 2 hours, you know that working on this project will take about 2 hours. What you do is you break those 2 hours and you make a routine, like you will work for 25 minutes, then you'll take a break for 10 minutes, work for 25 minutes again, and take a break again. So it's like you make this routine and you break that 25, sorry, that those 2 hours into small intervals. And you can use timers and alarms to track the work and the break time. Now, when you do this, you're basically training your mind to stay with the task for a longer time, and your mind will listen to you because it knows that you'll surely get novelty or some more stimulation after 25 minutes. If we tell ourselves that we'll focus for 2 hours straight, we all know it's not that realistic. If we say that, we'll focus for 2 hours and then we'll chill, that doesn't sound realistic, because it's less likely that we won't check our phones, someone won't call us, or we won't be distracted to do something in those 2 hours. However, staying focused for 25 minutes seem more realistic to us. Now, if someone feels that 25 minutes is also a lot, you can decrease those 25 minutes to 15 minutes. So you work for 15 minutes, you take a break for 5 minutes, you work for 15 minutes, take a break for 5 minutes, and that's how you keep doing, and you complete that work that has to be done in 2 hours in a little longer period, but with breaks. So that was the Pomodoro technique. Now, it might sound that, okay, working for 25 minutes and then just taking a break for 10 minutes sounds good. But how do I stay focused in those 25 minutes? So the next technique is basically to limit our distractions. Now, when we limit our distractions, we're focused on what we're doing. So, how to limit our distraction? Number one is like an obvious thing: move to a quieter place, a place where there are no people, there's not a lot of noise. If possible, close the doors of that place, move to a room which is aloof. Switch off your notifications on your phone. In fact, if you're working on your laptop, close the tabs and apps that you think aren't necessary for that particular task that you're doing. Also, if possible, tell people around you. That's very important. If people around you know that you are working on a particular task, they won't distract you. If you're alone and you think you can get calls or there are people waiting for you on the phone, tell them in advance that, I'm sorry, I won't be available for the next so and so minutes or hours because I'll be working on something. That way, people also know, and they're less likely to disturb you. Right. So the third thing is food. So when you know that you need to stay focused for a task and you're getting ready to work on it, have a good diet. Eat some nuts, fruits, or have like a proper meal, but don't be empty stomach. When we're hungry, we lose focus very easily. I'm sure we all know that, how irritated, angry, and hangry is the word. So how irritated we all get when we're hungry. So if we're not empty stomach, we're full stomach and not so full that we fall asleep. But if we've had like a good meal and we're feeling full, we're all set to sit and get started to work. Yeah, right. Excuse me while I have water. Right. So the next thing is multitasking. Now, while we tend to appreciate people who can multitask, and multitask is like the cool thing these days, but it's actually not that good. It leads to losing focus easily. Why? Because when we're multitasking, we're again stimulating our brain with new things, newer things like every moment. When we multitask, our brain is getting stimulated every minute with a new task. So it's best to avoid multitasking and move to a new task only when the previous one is done. So multitasking, as exciting as it shows, it's not that exciting. Yeah. Right. Social media usage and Netflix habits. So, according to a scientific study, when we're scrolling through Instagram, we attend to a post for 10 seconds on an average. So, like that, we're training our brain to see something new or stimulate it every 10 seconds. We watch a reel, we watch a post, we scroll it down, we watch another post, we scroll it down, we watch another meme. We're stimulating our brain with something new every 10 seconds. So that's where our brain is getting trained that, oh, I will get to see something excited every next moment. When we're watching a movie or a series on Netflix, Amazon Prime, YouTube, or wherever, we love, when there is suspense, when the movie has a lot of twists and turns. That's because our mind is getting stimulated. Our brain gets that excitement every next moment. And even in the movies, even if the movie is not an action movie or it does not have a lot of suspense, it is it has a lot of images, it has a lot of scenes which keep switching. So that switch is a stimulation for our brain. Now it's okay. In fact, it's important to enjoy such stuff when there is suspense, when our brain is getting stimulated, but we should balance it out. Like, excess of nothing is good. So if we're watching some movie with like a lot of suspense, it's also important to watch something which is at a neutral level where there's not a lot of suspense. So it's important to balance it out by watching videos which are less stimulating and in which a scene sticks for a longer duration. Yeah. So an example of such videos or movies is basically TED Talks. Listen to TED Talks, watch TED Talks, watch documentaries. The basic thing to keep in mind over here is to train our mind to not crave for novelty so soon and learn to stick to at least a task for like a while, at least for 2 minutes, 5 minutes. That's how we start training ourselves. Yeah. All right. So next thing is meditation. Now, meditation, useful. I mean, the type of medication useful for particularly helping you to stay focused is breath-based meditation and guided meditation. Now, what is breath-based meditation? In breath-based meditation, you simply sit for a moment in a room where there's not a lot of disturbance. You shut your eyes, sit in a comfortable position, and you focus on your breath. You focus on the pace of your breath. Each time you breathe, your mind goes there. You bring your attention to how you're breathing. Now, when you're doing that, again, your mind is focusing on one particular thing and it's not looking for novelty, because the novelty here is the second breath you take, and that's actually not that novel. Yeah. So it's like you're fooling your mind. You're fooling your mind that, oh, you'll get something new, which is new yet same. So mind is basically, a thing which you can fool very easily. You can train your mind to do whatever you want. So using breath-based meditation here is like a very, very effective tool. Second thing that I talked about is guided meditation. So as the name suggests, in guided meditation, we all meditate following the instructions of the guide. Now you can all Google up or YouTube, in fact, on YouTube, just simply search guided meditation. You'll get a lot of links, 10-minute videos, and they all are guiding you through meditation. They all guide you, they give you instructions. You have to simply follow those instructions and it helps you meditate. When you listen to their instructions, when you're following what they're saying, you're basically focusing. That's the whole point. Yeah. So you're focusing on what they're saying and following that. When you do that, it enables you to focus for a longer time, to increase your attention span, and that's just like an advantage here. So you're practicing how to focus for longer. Right. The next thing is exercise. Now, why is exercise important? So, when we use the energy in our body, like a homeostasis of sort, is maintained. Basically, our physical energy is put to use. However, if we do not exercise, the excessive amount of energy is left behind, which instigates us to not stay focused on what we're doing, but rather keep changing tasks. If we have a lot of energy in ourselves, we won't be able to sit in front of our laptops for a longer duration. We'll want to keep doing more and more. If we exercise, that's controlled, right? Next thing, which I personally also use, is called the SMART goals. Now, to stay focused, it's very important to have a goal in mind. But if the goal is a SMART goal, it's nothing like it. So, SMART is basically an acronym where S stands for specific, M stands for measurable, A stands for attainable, R stands for realistic, and T stands for time bound. Now, let's say you have a goal in mind. Something like I want to reach office on time and I want it to be hassle free. Now, as exciting as this goal might sound, it's very vague. We just have like a broad goal that I want my travel time to be easy, and where I reach on time, I'm punctual without facing a lot of obstacles, right? So if, let's say, my client comes up with this goal, I will ask my client to narrow it down, keeping the SMART goals in mind. S is for specific, yeah? So I will want my client to specify and narrow down this goal. So let's say the client now comes up with a narrow goal that I want to buy a car. I use public transport right now, and that takes a lot of time because, let's say, the client is using metro or bus and he has to change a few stations. There's a lot of time crunch at that moment. So he says that if I buy a car, I think I'll be able to achieve this goal. So we have a specific goal of buying a car in mind. Now I'll ask my client to narrow it down further. By narrowing it down further, I'll basically ask him to decide which car he wants to buy. So that way we have a specific goal in mind. Now M, measurable. So by measurable, will I be able to measure if I have achieved this goal or not? So yeah, it looks like if the client buys the car, the goal is achieved. So yes, it's measurable. Third thing is attainable. So how attainable is this goal? If there are cars in the market, and if the client can just go there and purchase a car, it's definitely attainable. So yeah, it's a yes for attainable as well. Moving on to R, SMAR. Now, R is realistic. So, while attainable is more of a general concept, that the goal that we want to achieve, how attainable it is at a general level, R is realistic, which is more personal to the client. So, when I say realistic, how able is my client to realistically buy a car? Does he have the resources? Does he have the money to go buy the car he wants? So I'll check on that. And then we'll decide if, he needs this much amount to buy a car. Right now, he has this much amount, which is not the exact amount. So he'll start working on that. He'll probably save something and then he'll finally have the amount needed to buy the car. So that's realistic. Smart T, time bound. Now, having a timeline in mind that, all right, it's March going on. By December, I have to save this much money and I have to buy the car. So that's a SMART goal, where the goal kept in mind by my client is realistic, it's attainable, it's very, very specific, something we can measure, and we have a deadline for it. It's time bound. So when we have SMART goals in mind, we're more focused. If my client just keeps saying that, I want to reach office on time and I want it to be hassle free, it's very abrupt, it's very vague, where the client can, there's nothing we can measure as such. But if we have a specific thing in mind, if we have a timeline for it, we're more focused to work on it. Right. So, the last technique that I have for you all, the last tip how to stay focused is mindfulness. So, as repetitive as it may sound, it's very, very, it's trendy these days. Everyone's talking about mindfulness and how useful it is. What is mindfulness exactly? Mindfulness, in a way, is to stay focused, but focused in the present moment. It is basically to be fully present where you are and what you're doing, without making judgments of what's happening around you. Now, when I say judgments, it's simple that if I'm sitting under a fan and I feel the need of an AC, I just don't have to feel the need. I have to just sit there, be in the moment, and be okay with the wind, with the air given to me, with the cool given to me by the fan, without thinking that, oh, I'm feeling hot, or I need an air conditioner right now. Having no judgments, just being there in the moment, living each moment, as we say. If I'm working on my laptop, I'm just working on my laptop and not doing anything else. So that's mindfulness. A very easy way to start practicing mindfulness is by practicing mindful eating. So you eat something, you literally bring your attention to everything, every bite you take, the the chewing process, you bring your attention to that when you take it inside. So when you start engaging in mindful eating, you gradually start to learn how to be mindful in each area or in each task that you do. Right. So it's important to make a routine, like earlier I said that we have a fitness routine for our bodies when we feel that we're out of shape. Similarly, we need to have a routine for our mind and our brain to start focusing. And the tips that I just mentioned, use these tips, practice them. It'll take time. It won't, not that you can just start exercising mindfulness and it'll show you results in a day. Give yourself at least 7 days. Do some of these tips daily. It might not be that you keep doing them throughout the day, but just for, let's say, one task each day, do this. It can be mindful bathing, right, where you just have to be very mindful and be aware while you're bathing. So yeah, use these techniques in a routine, and you will start getting results after a week. So that's it from my side. If anyone has any questions, put them up in the comments and I'll be happy to answer you all. Also, I'd like to thank everyone who's joined in today. Thanks for the response, guys. I'll just wait for a few seconds for you all to put in the questions, and yeah. All right, so looks like there are no questions. I think we'll end the live now. Thank you so much, everyone, again, who joined. I hope the session was helpful and the tips that I mentioned will be useful to you all. Thank you. Bye bye.